Today we're going to be talking about shoes, and I apologize in advance for how gross and dirty some of these shoes are. Welcome back, friends. Today we're going to be going through my current shoe rotation, and I just want to go through each one of these models, talk about them a little bit, highlight their pros and cons, and do that today. Before we get to the shoes though, I do want to go through a couple of things. First of all, a disclaimer. I try to shy away from doing shoe reviews on this channel. I actually love shoes. I enjoy talking about shoes, and I want to talk about shoes on this channel, but the problem I have with shoes is that everyone has different feet. So the shoes that work for me may not work for you, and the shoes that work for you may not work for me. As I go through this, it's mainly an entertainment piece. I just want to go through what works for me, the features and the fit and things like that that affect me, and maybe that will help you in some way. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into the second disclaimer. You'll notice that most of the shoes on the table here are from two different brands, and that's going to be Altra and Hoka, because these are two brands that I really like. With that said, neither one of these brands are sponsoring this video. Hoka and Altra don't even know I'm making this video. They didn't pay me to make this video. Even though this video is not sponsored by Hoka or Altra, it is sponsored by my friends over at Best Buy. That's right, Best Buy is sponsoring this video, and they're sponsoring this video because they're now promoting that they sell Oura Ring in-store and on their website. If you don't know what the Oura Ring is, I've got one on my finger right now. This is the Oura Ring Horizon, and this new Horizon model has a super slim profile, and you barely notice it's on your hand. The color I'm wearing here is the new stealth gray color, which I think is super cool. The new Oura Ring Horizon combines that sleek design with all of the trusted wellness tech that Oura has become known for. And while I really do enjoy the slim design of the Oura Ring Horizon after wearing it for the past couple of months, more importantly, I really enjoy the user interface in the Oura app. Within the Oura app on your phone, you can dive through all of your wellness data, including your sleep history, your training history, and more importantly, easy to understand metrics like the readiness score. The Oura readiness score takes all the guesswork out of all those different metrics and just gives you a single number and a brief explanation on what it all means and how much energy you should have left for the remainder of your day, which is super cool. And what I find really exciting about this partnership between Oura Ring and Best Buy is that it means you can actually go to a Best Buy store and size your ring in person and buy your ring in person if you don't want to wait for the mail and the whole process of doing the sizing kit online, which makes the whole process super easy. So if you've been interested in an Oura Ring and you haven't pulled the trigger on one yet, go check out the link in the description down below and head over to bestbuy.com, or just visit your local Best Buy in person and see one for yourself. Okay, what I've got here is my collection of road and trail shoes and what I've been actively wearing for the past few months and what I've been enjoying so far this year. Some of these models are probably old by now, but I still enjoy them, so I'm going to talk about them anyways, and there's probably updated models that are kind of the same, so just keep that in mind. I also want to mention that the way I talk about shoes is I'm not going to dive through like the midsole compound material and all of the little nitty-gritty marketing details. I just want to talk about the shoes themselves, some of the details, what I think about them, what their pros and cons are, and hopefully that can help you in some way. With that said, let's get the trail shoes off the table for a second and just focus in on the road shoes to kick this video off. And to start, I think I want to talk about this shoe, and this is the Altra Vanish Carbon. All right, so some quick stats about the Altra Vanish Carbon. This shoe comes in both a men's and women's version. It does come in at a pretty expensive price point at $240. This shoe has a 33 millimeter stack height, and if you don't know what stack height is, that's basically how thick the midsole is, and it's also got a zero drop, and what that means is that there's no difference between the height of the toe and the heel. They're at the same level, which is pretty uncommon for shoes. Most shoes have an elevated heel in some way, but that's what this brand Altra is known for. Every shoe they sell is a zero drop. The Altra Vanish Carbon is Altra's answer to a race shoe. Previously, they didn't really have a fast and light race shoe for the road, and that's what this is. This shoe actually comes in two different versions. There's a regular Altra Vanish, and then there's the Vanish Carbon, the one I have here, which does have a carbon plate inside. However, unlike other carbon plated shoes, the carbon plate within the Vanish Carbon is only half the length of the shoe instead of the full length. This shoe has a super light and breathable upper with a lot of holes in it for ventilation. The Vanish Carbon also has a really aggressive rocker outsole. That means it's got a curve to it that allows your foot to sort of transition in and out of a stride very easily. And finally, Altra did use their Ego Pro midsole in here. I don't actually know what the material is, but I do find that midsole to be super I don't know, very comfortable, very cushiony, very spongy, but also very responsive thanks to that carbon plate. And when it comes to sizing on the Vanish Carbon, I did find that they run just a little bit small, so I did have to size up a half size to get a good fit. With all those details out of the way, let's talk about the pros and cons. First, the pros. The Altra Vanish Carbon have a great ride. I really like the midsole in these. In that carbon plate, there's something magical about the stride with this shoe. It makes me feel very fast, even though I'm not that fast. I found the fit once I sized up with these shoes to be really good, and I get a really good ankle lock with the lacing system on these as well. And the final thing I'll mention on my pros list is I like the look of these. I don't know what it is about this orange color, but it's something I really enjoy, and yeah, I'm vain, so yeah, I like the look. Now let's jump to the cons on the Vanish Carbon. First of all, the fit does run a little bit small and narrow, like I said before, but once you size up, it's not a big deal. But the second thing I want to mention here in the cons list is durability. This particular shoe probably has 300 miles on it, and as you can see, this outsole is just peeling like an onion. Like, it's completely gone on this side of the shoe here. It's down to the midsole, and once it hits the midsole, you can see it just gets shaved away like a cheese grater when it hits the asphalt, which is a real problem because this is, I think, my 4th pair of this shoe. And this shoe is very expensive. I do wish in terms of durability that outsole lasted a little bit longer. Okay, Altra Vanish Carbon out of the way. Let's move on to the next shoe in this video, and that's going to be the Hoka Mach X. The Hoka Mach X comes in at $180, so it is a cheaper shoe, even though it's still pretty expensive. This shoe has a really thick stack height. In the back, we've got 42 millimeters of stack height, and in the front, we do have 37 millimeters of stack height. That gives us a 5 millimeter drop from heel to toe. This shoe is designed to be a daily trainer, but it can also be a race shoe as well because it isn't super heavy or anything like that. It comes in at 9.4 ounces in a size 9 men's, which isn't too bad in terms of weight for a road shoe. The really interesting thing about the Hoka Mach X is what they're using inside the midsole here. Instead of a carbon plate, they have a Pebax plate. Now, Pebax is basically a hard, springy plastic that can be used in place of carbon fiber. So with this shoe, you sort of get the benefits of a carbon shoe without paying the price for a carbon shoe. I actually have 2 pairs of these shoes because I like them so much. I also like wearing these for casual wear, like if I'm just out and about, you know, going grocery shopping or something. I have another pair of these that are a little bit cleaner that I'll wear on that occasion because I do find them to be super comfortable just for general use. Okay, pros and cons about the Hoka Mach X. Let's go with the pros first. This shoe is one of my favorite long distance running shoes on roads. I tend to reach for this if I'm doing, 15 plus miles. That's when I go for a shoe like this because it has a little bit more support. Another nice thing about this shoe is that even though the outsole isn't aggressive at all, like it has no lugs or anything, I found that I can actually do some light trail running with this shoe. So if I'm going out for a mixed adventure, if I'm running on some road and then some trail, I'll probably reach for this as well, as long as the trail isn't like super muddy or steep or anything like that. If it's just like groomed single track, this shoe's perfect for that. Another thing I really like about this shoe is that it surprisingly fits my foot really well. And finally, I do want to mention that the durability on the shoe has held up really well so far. You can see that this one has some midsole showing on the edge here, but this particular shoe has probably over 400 miles on it, and it still has a lot of life left. Let's move into what I don't like about the Hoka Mach X, the tongue. So the tongue on the shoe isn't bad, but I found it's a little bit short. You can see, like, even if I pull it up, it's just barely above the laces here. So sometimes when I'm running and I don't have my laces down super tight, the tongue will actually kind of scrunch up and fall inside the shoe. I guess my only other complaint on this shoe would be that the ankle padding is a little much. It's a little bit thick, but again, another minor complaint. Overall, I really dig this shoe. And that is the Hoka Mach X. Let's move on to the next shoe. Actually, before I do that, I want to give an honorable mention in terms of road shoes to the Hoka Rocket X2. I actually don't have one in the studio here with me, but it is a shoe I've been wearing a lot. I'll put some screenshots of me running in it up here. And I found this shoe to be really interesting. It is expensive. Again, it's a carbon plated shoe from Hoka, but it does feel really fast. And for days that I want to go out and like try to rip a fast 5K, which for me is not very fast, but if I was going to try to do that, I would reach for the Hoka Rocket X2. And now for the good stuff, we're gonna move into trail shoes. And even though I have 3 shoes here, 2 of them are the same. I don't know what I'm doing. The first trail shoe I wanna talk about here is the Hoka Mafate Speed 4. I don't even know what Mafate means, but it's a fun word to say, Mafate. The Mafate Speed 4 comes in at $185. Again, not super cheap, but also not super expensive in the grand scheme of things. This shoe is reasonably light, even though it looks pretty big and bulky. A size 9 is only 10.5 ounces, which is pretty impressive. The Mafate Speed 4 has a classic Hoka look with a really thick midsole and stack height. In the back, we have 33 millimeters of stack, and in the front, we have 29 millimeters of stack, which equates to a 4 millimeter drop in the shoe, which is a pretty minimal drop and something I appreciate. Now, the Hoka Mafate Speed 4 is sort of a do-it-all shoe. This could be used for racing or training. The upper on the Hoka Mafate Speed 4 is a engineered mesh, and it is pretty thin and lightweight and breathable. It does have some padding in the ankle area here in that like flared out kind of thing to protect your Achilles, which I think does the job. There are some welded overlays on the front of the shoe to protect your toes when you're out trail running, and there's some structure in the back to keep the heel nice and tight. And I do find the fit of the shoe to be really well. Again, even with my clown feet, these have held up pretty well so far in terms of fit. The Mafate Speed 4s also have a really aggressive outsole and lug pattern. As you can see here, it is a Vibram outsole, and it's called their Mega Grip, and it does have a ton of grip. Now let's talk pros and cons and use cases here. First up, I want to talk pros. This shoe feels surprisingly light. Again, it doesn't look like a light shoe, but when it's on your foot, it feels really lightweight and pretty nimble. I will reiterate, the great traction is definitely a pro, and the fit overall does fit my foot. I did not have to upsize or anything like that. I also really like the cushion and responsiveness of the shoe. There's no rock plate in it, but even in pretty rocky terrain with sharp objects and stuff, I never found like a painful point when my foot hit the ground. Now let's talk about some of the cons about the Hoka Mafate Speed 4. Now, for whatever reason, with this shoe, over time, my feet do become fatigued, and I have gotten blisters with these shoes at an Altra. So typically for me, I will reach for this shoe if I'm trying to run like a fast, longer distance that's no more than 20 miles, and typically not on super rugged terrain like in the mountains or something like that. I'd probably reach for the shoe for more of a groomed or pretty flat trail run, and not like a really hilly with tons of gain and ups and downs and things like that. That's where the fit and fatigue and blisters might play a role with my particular foot. Another thing I want to mention about the Hoka Mafate Speed 4 in terms of cons is that occasionally I do feel kind of clumsy in the shoe. I find myself like tripping or sidestepping or something, and that might just be me, but I think it might be just due to the wide footprint at the bottom of the shoe compared to the relatively narrow upper part of the shoe. But that's just me. Don't get me wrong, I really, really like the Hoka Mafate Speed 4. I have 2 pairs of these, and again, this is a shoe I reach for all the time during my training runs. Definitely if I'm doing like 8 to 10 miles, I'll be wearing this shoe. Anything longer, I'll probably reach for my other shoe, like this one. Okay, Hoka Mafate Speed 4 is out of the way. Let's talk about the final shoe in this video, and that is the Altra Mont Blanc Boa. And we can argue all day how that's pronounced. I'm probably saying it wrong. You're supposed to say it like Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc. Did I say it right? So again, this is a shoe that I have multiple pairs of. I actually have 3 pairs of the Mont Blanc Boa. I've got the white and red color here, and I've got 2 pairs of this orange color because I dig orange, and also the white one got kind of beat up. So the Mont Blanc Boa is designed to be Altra's super shoe when it comes to trail running. This shoe is somewhat expensive, coming in at $210 for the Boa version, but there is a non-Boa version that's $180, which I didn't like as much, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The Mont Blanc Boa is a bit of a heavier shoe. In a size 9, it does come in at 11.2 ounces, which isn't like crazy heavy, but it is on the heavier side of things. And again, this is a zero drop platform, the same distance from the heel to the toe, across the board, all zero drop because it is Altra. The Mont Blanc Boa does have a 30 millimeter stack height, so not crazy tall, but what I found with this shoe is that you don't need a ton of stack height because it does have a ton of cushion in this midsole. Altra used their Ego Max midsole on the Mont Blanc, which I really appreciate because for whatever reason, this shoe does not need to be broken in. In fact, I took this particular one out of the box and ran 54 miles in it that same day with no blisters at the end of the day. Even though it was raining, torrential downpours, I was running through puddles, I had no feet problems. Before I spoil all of this, let's dive into the pros and cons. Again, pros first. The Mont Blanc Boa. This shoe is a shoe that I wear on super long distances because I have never gotten a blister or a hot spot or anything any foot issues at all from this shoe. And that might just be coincidence, but there's something about it. And obviously the big sell here is the BOA lacing system. If you haven't noticed already, there's not a traditional lacing system on this shoe. It's just like a ski boot or a mountaineering boot, and it is actually branded by BOA, which is the company that makes this kind of string and knob system on the side of the shoe here. So as you can see, all I have to do is pop this button in and turn the dial, and this is taking up slack and tightening the shoe. And if I tighten my shoe and it's very comfortable, and then over time I find it to be too tight, I don't have to completely unlace my shoe and retie it to get a better fit. All I have to do is pop this knob open, release the tension, pop it back down, turn the knob again, and I can dial in my fit all over again. And I find this BOA system to be invaluable at ultra marathons because as you run for 10, 15, 20 hours, your feet will swell. And as they swell, your shoes will become uncomfortable. And with traditional laces, you'll have to stop, untie them, retie them, make sure it's fitting right. And it's very finicky. It does take a lot of time. With these shoes, it's so quick. You pop them open, you adjust them, you pop it shut, you keep moving. With the BOA system aside, let's talk about some other features. The fit. I really like the fit of the shoe. It basically mimics the shape of my foot perfectly. So it matches up with my foot like no other shoe, which I really do appreciate. Flipping the shoe over, I will also mention that they do have great traction. Again, this is a Vibram outsole. This one's pretty worn down because it's got a lot of miles on it. And the final pro I want to mention is surprising durability. I was kind of scared of the BOA system when I first got it. I thought, what if I'm 90 miles into an ultra marathon and this string breaks, because it does look kind of dinky. But with all that said, I've run 100-mile ultras with this shoe. I've run 50-mile ultras with this shoe. I've run in the mountains with this shoe, and I've never had an issue with the BOA system or any other part of the shoe, really. I mean, there's some weak spots, but overall, it's holding up pretty well. With the pros out of the way, this shoe's not perfect. Let's talk about some of the cons. First up will be the ankle. So around the ankle here, for whatever reason, there's like a sharp edge where the suede or leather-like material meets your ankle. And when you first put these on, it does feel pretty uncomfortable. It's kind of scary because, you know, when you get into running a really long distance, you can kind of imagine this will become an issue. It hasn't become an issue for me, but I could imagine with other people, this might irritate their ankle right off the bat because it's kind of sharp. It's not really smooth or comfortable there. Another thing I don't love about the shoe is for whatever reason, the insole inside the shoe tends to slide around a lot. I don't know why. So in my last run with this shoe, the insole actually gets wadded up and kind of moves its way forward into the toe box and ends up like a roll of pennies under your toes in the front of the shoe. To combat that, I have glued the insole down to the bottom of the shoe with super glue, and that did solve the problem, but it is something to be aware of. But honestly, that's just me being critical. If I had to pick a favorite shoe in this whole video, this might be it. It's just one I really enjoy wearing and I've had very little issues with, and I really do appreciate the BOA system. It really does it for me. And with that, I think we have reached the end of this short, odd video about shoes. I know I kind of rambled through this pretty quick, but I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on each individual shoe because this video would become very long. If you want to hear a more in-depth review about any shoe, not just these, but maybe other shoes, let me know in the comments down below. What shoe do you want to see reviewed on this channel? Do you have a special shoe, a favorite shoe? Share that in the comments down below. And like I said at the beginning of this video, don't go out and just buy these shoes because I'm wearing them. Make sure to try them on at a store. But if you are interested on finding out how much these shoes cost or their availability, I will have them all linked in the description down below, along with my sponsor links over to Best Buy. So go check that out as well. Okay, friends, that is it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.